guys, it's LA Night again, and yes, again, I'm talking about Wintersong by S.J. Jones again, for the third time, I know, but there was something that I didn't touch on in my review, and I didn't touch on in the whole thing about demonizing sexuality, but it actually kind of touches on that, but it's weird, it's a weird juxtaposition. It's something I just want to talk about briefly. This should probably only take about 5 or 10 minutes. But the thing is, I talk about how in my earlier podcast that for some reason sex is shown as being very negative in Wintersong. And it's not even, and I don't even mean like sex before marriage is negative. I mean sex period is negative. Sexual attraction, sexual arousal, sex period is shown in a very negative way. And yes, Liesl enjoys sex in the book, but she's always very ashamed of the fact that she's enjoying sex until very late in the book. And even when she wants to have sex and she gets mad that the Goblin King isn't having sex with her when she thinks that he ought to, even then, it's shown as still being like a shameful thing. Almost like she's like, yeah, I'm ready to be debased now. What is taking you so long? And I want to talk about that because on the one hand, while sex is portrayed very negatively in the book, and I don't think the author did that on purpose, but it is, on the flip side, there's a lot of emphasis put on how important it is. And like, I don't think that's a really healthy juxtaposition, that this bad thing is still something that you have to do. What I mean is that, so, on their wedding night, Liesl's like, alright, let's you and me have some sex now. You know, we're married, I'm stuck with you, so let's do it. And he's like, no, I don't want to do it. And then she, like, gets insulted. Now, I can understand her being insulted. And maybe she's a little drunk, I don't know. But I feel like she was put in this position where she couldn't win either way. Either she's gonna be like, okay, I'm okay with you rejecting me, and then she's gonna, like, scurry off to her room like a little mouse, or she's gonna be like, fuck you, bitch, how dare you not want me, and then she comes across as, like, a total bitch, and kind of, it's a little rapey, where she's just like, no, we're gonna have sex, like, now, which is actually what happened, and then he was like, you know what, you're drunk, go away. Or it's going to be like what ended up happening at first, which is, well, I'm ready for my defilement now. I'm a lost cause anyway. And it's like, why is this even a thing in this book? And then on top of that, like, when she finally does have sex, the aftermath of having sex the first time is, well, obviously, okay, so she's a virgin, right? She's, like, you know, one of those proper Christian girls. Oh, also, here's the other thing. It's like, the thing about her feeling ashamed of being turned on doesn't actually make a lot of sense, because there's a boy that she makes out with earlier in the book, and like he wants to make out with her, and he just kind of wants her to stand there and take it, you know, lie back and think of Bavaria. And then she responds, and he's like, I didn't know you were one of those kinds of girls. And she's like, well, what kind of girl do you want me to be? And then she's basically like, actually, you know what, fuck you, I can do what I want, and you know what, you're not worthy of me anyway, because there's nothing wrong with me wanting to kiss you if I'm in love with you and you ask me to kiss you, which is entirely true. Like, you know, you can't ask somebody to kiss you and then get upset when they get into it, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, 'cause it's like you're setting them up to fail. And so, so that was, like, a great thing, but then, you know, when she's kissing the Goblin King, she's not like, oh my god, he's a goblin, so I'm terrible. He's like, oh, or she is like, oh, but this is so wrong. I feel so flushed and so hot and bothered, and this is so sinful. And I'm like, what? But then, so she ends up having sex with the Goblin King not on their wedding night, but later. And first of all, she's like super disgusted with herself afterwards, both not in a moral way, which I think is a little weird, actually. She's so hung up on sexual freedom being bad, on sexual attraction being inherently evil, that when she has sex with the Goblin King for the first time, he calls her a saint, and she thinks to herself, no, I'm a sinner, and I want to sin again and again and again. And I'm like, well, okay, but then you know, in the morning, she's like super grossed out, but not about that. She's grossed out because, like, she's got blood on her. And it's like, you know, I feel like, first of all, I feel like this guy's been around long enough, and he's been married enough times, that if he would know what, and also it hurt. And, like, yeah, okay, most of the time, your first time, if you're a girl, is going to hurt. But if you are with someone who is supposed to be an expert, who knows what he's doing, like, and isn't a dickbag about it, then it shouldn't be that bad. Like, I feel like her first real sexual encounter with the Goblin King was written in such a way that it was, like, supposed to be traumatic. Like, sex is inherently traumatic. Again, this goes back to what I said in my review, that it seems like in this book, sex is bad. And I don't think the author meant it to come across that way, but, like, there's so much negativity around the sex concept in the book. Not even the sexual content itself, but even the whole idea of sex in this book. This book is very negative about sex and sexuality. And I think it's supposed to be empowering, especially based on the end, which I have now read. But it isn't, because she's like, all right, well, it's bad, but I know it. Basically, she says what Edward says in Twilight: if I'm going to hell, I might as well do it thoroughly. And so, like, that is not a positive message about, your own sexuality. I don't understand why there's so much negativity here, and not just with her whole thing about how sexual arousal is evil, but then, like, when he doesn't want to have sex with her, and for a stupid reason, but, it's still his choice. She gets very pushy about it, and I understand that, like, because of the way she's raised, her self-worth is tied into how physically desirable she is to her spouse, and I feel like actually that should have been addressed, and it isn't. Like, I mean, like, it's addressed in the narrative, but it's not addressed between the two of them. And this guy's been married like 10 million times, so it's not like he's immune, or not immune, it's not like he doesn't know how to communicate. Like, I don't understand why he didn't talk to her, or, because I realize she's young, okay? She's like 19 and insecure, and everyone's told her whole life that she's ugly. But I feel like he would be wise enough and experienced enough to get around her insecurities and talk to her about what she's feeling, and he doesn't. And it's like what she's feeling is normal, and is so normal that, like, oh, she'll get over it. And it's like, well, she's feeling very vulnerable right now. Why can't he do something about it? And then it's just, like, literally the whole experience for her of having sex with him until the very last time is very negative. And it's not because the sex is bad. It's not because the sex is rough. It's not because he's mean. It's not because she didn't give consent. He makes sure to get consent, which is something I did appreciate. But her feelings about it are very negative, except after they have sex the first time, after she, like, takes a bath and gets dressed and stuff, like, she doesn't know how to react, which is normal. But then, like, she was really, really, really upset. And then she starts to, like, organize her thoughts and stuff. And then she's like, you know what? I don't have anything to be upset about. My life is perfect. Everything's great. He's super hot. Sex is amazing. It's bad, but who cares? It's like, I'm going to hell, but I don't care. And I'm just like, wait, what? And, like, literally all of her self-esteem issues, because she thinks that she's ugly, and she's like, shy about showing him her music, because her dad is super dickbag abusive and has told her entire most of her life that her music is worthless and she sucks, and so she's, like, super shy about sharing it with anybody except her brother. And, like, suddenly she's okay with sharing her music with him. She, like, she's open with him and is willing to talk to him, and suddenly, because they have sex, suddenly everything in their relationship is okay. And, I mean, obviously, because the plot is still going on, like, that whole thing is still happening. But for the next several months, she doesn't care. She's getting laid. And that is another problem. Like, you guys maybe have heard of the magic penis trope, where a guy and a girl have sex, and the girl's got, like, some serious kind of trauma going on. And then suddenly, the guy, gives her a bit of the magic penis, and suddenly everything is okay. And she's, perfectly healthy, mentally well-adjusted, blah, 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 blah. And she's great, and nothing bad is ever going to happen to her again, and she's super happy. I think I said that already. Anyway, that's basically what happened. It's like suddenly she had, hot elf goblin sex, and then everything's, all kittens, rainbows, and fluffy bunnies. And I'm like, you know what? No? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. This book's, the way that sex is treated in this book is so bizarre. Because, again, the demonizing of sexual arousal and attraction, but then, and then also, like, sex the feeling about sex is very negative. Like when she wakes up and she's like, oh my god, I'm a mess. I need to get away. I need to get away from him. You know, there's none of, I mean, when I got married, I was not a virgin when I got married. But when I got married, I mean, you know, when I woke up in the morning, I wasn't like, oh shit, you know, I need to get away from my husband. I was like, let's cuddle. And yes, I mean actually cuddling. I was like, let's cuddle because, you know, actually I remember when I woke up, the first thing I said was, good morning, husband, because I was so happy to be married. And he said, good morning, wife, and it was super cute, and we laughed, and then we went to McDonald's at like 5 in the morning, so, you know, everything was super fresh and it was delicious. But, like, I feel like, basically, the message I'm getting from this book is sex is bad, don't do it. And I'm like, really? Like, and that's the thing. It's like she's enjoying it so much, but it's like Liesel is shown as being wrong to enjoy it. And I don't even know if the author did that on purpose, but like every time Liesel does anything sexual, her life is like upended and either something super unrealistic and good happens, which is only once. Also the other thing is, even though she's happy after she ends up having sex the first time with the Goblin King, suddenly she's like possessed by fairy glamour, and so she can't stop working on her music, and so like they have sex like once, and then they don't have sex for like a month or something because they work constantly on this song that she's working on, and he's helping her, and it gets to the point that like she starts having like small micro hemorrhages in her brain, and like so like, you know, don't have sex, you'll get, you know, glamored by fairies and die. And I don't know, everyone like talks about how it's like darkly seductive and it's super poetic, and I'm like, yes, it is all of those things, but apparently it's also very anti-sex and the ending is terrible. And I was wrong, apparently there is actually a sequel coming out next year called Shadow Song, and I'm like, you know what, we'll see how that goes. But that one I'm getting from the library, I'm not buying it until I read it, because I am still super pissed off that I got burned in that regard. I normally, like, this is one of the only times I've ever finished a book that I bought and been mad that I bought it, regardless of how good the book was. Most of the books that I read, I mean, I'm okay with books that aren't very well done. I can enjoy them. You know, Throne of Glass is an example. Harry Potter's an example. Twilight's an example. All three of those are examples. I enjoy them, even though they're not very good. But this was not one of those books. But that's not the point. That's not the point of this podcast. The point of this podcast is that apparently one of the subplots or sub-themes of the text is that don't have sex, it's bad. You should be ashamed of having sex and then have sex anyway. But if you do that, bad things will happen to you. I feel like this needs to be said, because there's like the way that sex is handled in juvenile fiction is not necessarily the way that it should always be handled, and this is really not how you handle it. And so I wanted to talk about that. This ended up being a little bit longer than I thought, but yeah. So this is probably gonna be my last one about Wintersong, but that's something. I felt like the way sex is handled is basically sex is bad, don't do it, or something terrible will happen to you. And if you do it, even while you're doing it, you should feel bad about doing it. You should be ashamed because it's bad. And I'm just like, no. Anyway, you know, let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. Again, if you guys didn't get this message from the book, then, you know, yay for you. But that's what I got from it, and I was really uncomfortable reading this book, actually. Anytime something like that happened, I got really uncomfortable. Anyway, let me know what you think, and I will talk to you guys in the next podcast. Bye!